All right, we are back again at the Beat the Odds at Business and Wealth podcast, and of course, we're here together with Josh Spurrell, who is in Tulsa, Oklahoma today. Josh, what are you doing in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Oh man, I've been speaking at the Thrive concert, the Thrive conference in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, we've got a few hundred people here. Eric Trump is speaking tomorrow at the conference. So, Secret Service been crawling all around the event, and I thought I'd bring it back to the Canadian viewers and give some real perspective, boots on the ground, of what Americans actually think of Mark Carney.
All right, well, that should be pretty interesting what Americans actually think about our dear leader, Mark's carnage. What were your first impressions? Like, who are you talking to? Like, are you talking to business owners? You're talking to just your average Joes, people in restaurants? Like, who are we talking to?
Yeah, I mean, these are primarily business owners. This is, deep in Trump territory in Oklahoma. So, but you're primarily talking to, whether they're upstart or affluent business owners. So different perspective. But we know that even in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
that if you talk to a group of business owners, you're going to have a wildly different perspective than talking to employees, so to speak. But boots on the ground, talk to a whole bunch of people, and I think most Canadians are probably led astray on what's actually thought about. So.
Okay, all right. So we're trying to figure out what Americans think about Mark Carney. What kind of questions did you ask them? Like, honestly, do they even know who Mark Carney is?
This is therein lies the issue, right? Where we see, non-stop night after night on the CBC about Donald Trump. It's just non-stop night after night. And the question that most Canadians would have is like, well, maybe there's a bunch of Americans who support Mark Carney. Maybe they don't like Mark Carney. Maybe they're indifferent to Mark Carney. But in reality, the your perspective is likely true. Most of them, probably 80 to 90% of them, still think Justin Trudeau is the Prime Minister of Canada. I mean,
Yeah,
that is just the honest truth. They don't even know he exists. Like they could not tell you his name if their life depended on it.
yeah, he's
So
the leader of Canada. No idea who he is. They think it's still Justin. I mean, it might as well be Justin because he was he was the guy who was telling Justin what to do for the last 5 years. He's the puppet master behind the thing. But the thing that bothers me so much about Canadians is they've got Trump derangement syndrome so badly that when a report came out, Trump said like yesterday that hey, Tylenol might be bad for mothers taking it
for
when
pregnant
they're pregnant
mothers,
for
yeah.
pregnant mothers, and then they're going, well, I'm going to take even more Tylenol now because of Trump, and then a report comes out from 5 years ago that the CBC put out that acetaminophen might be bad for mothers who are pregnant, but now it's like, oh no, that's completely wrong. A message comes out from Health Canada that, oh no, it's completely safe. Yet they're contradicting what they said just a few years ago. It's just bonkers how like leftists or liberals or libtards think, whatever Trump says, if he says it's hot outside, no, it's freezing cold outside. If he says it's up, it's down. Like they're just mentally inept. I don't know what to say.
I mean, it's anything for an argument. Like it's just anything for an argument. Like you said, it's like, yeah, the CBC comes out and denounces it when 5 years ago they're running articles,
Yeah.
agreeing with
Yeah.
it, right? And Tylenol themselves says there's risks for pregnant mothers. So, I mean, it's just silly. But like the misunderstanding that most Canadians think is they think they're in a trade war, but the average American does not even know who elbows up Mark Carney is. They could not identify him if their life depends on it. And you just have to understand it from their perspective. Sometimes you can have the, quick to dismiss, so it's a dumb American or something like that. It's like they're a trading partner whose economy is 10 times larger than ours. 10 times larger than ours, right? It's like being a fan of the NHL and you're talking about maybe you can't name all the NCAA hockey teams. Like for perspective, it's like we have to understand that that is the outlook. So, if Canadians are waiting for, some outrage or, elbows up to make a big difference to the Americans, like it's just not there. It's just not in the public perception. And especially for the viewers of this podcast and even other podcasts, whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right, it's like people who are actually interested in it, you have to understand it's like that's probably not the de facto position. It's like most people just don't care about, whether it's politics or business or the economy until it's like directly affecting them.
Yeah.
And, they're not there yet in the US. Like this is not a primary concern, right? Um, and I think even moving forward, it's like they have to understand how tariffs are being sold to them. I think, if you look, whoever the president of the United States is, right now, like it's Donald Trump, right? But it's what choice do they really have? They have $37 trillion in debt. So they have $37 trillion in debt. He knows what has to be done. He's a billionaire. He knows exactly what has to be done. He knows that debt obligation has to be inflated away. He knows that, they have a $2 trillion deficit. And I've said this on countless occasions when him and Elon came out with the Doge, as if Doge was going to cut $1 trillion out of the budget. And it's just like, that was never going to happen. Like that was just never going to happen
Mm-hmm.
because unless they're cutting unless they're cutting Medicare or unless they're cutting Social Security or unless they're cutting national defense, or unless they can completely hijack the Federal Reserve, it's like all of the other line items together wouldn't add to $1 trillion. Like it was mathematically impossible
Mm-hmm.
based on the target of expenses they were looking at and what they were trying to reduce. It's like it was just never going to happen, right? And so, but on the other side, this is being sold, like the tariffs and the trade war are being sold as a way to alleviate the American taxpayer. And I don't really have a problem with an exercise like Doge because I think it needed to get done. Anytime you can get rid of government inefficiencies, I think that's a good deal. That's a good thing when things like that are being looked at. But it was sold as if it was a way to fix the problem. And same with tariffs. They're sold as if they're a way to fix the
Mm-hmm.
problem. So imagine if you're a billionaire and you're in charge of the free world and no one is actually, probably less than 10% of the population are even open to discussing the changes that would actually fix the problem. I mean, like fix the problem. I mean, changes like getting rid of Social Security, like a change like that, where we're actually seriously thinking about fixing a problem. They're completely unelectable.
Yeah.
No one would go for it, and, whether it's on the left or the right, like they're just not prepared to go for make that
Mm-hmm.
sort of change. And that the debt has to be inflated away. And by doing that, that you're going to have to inject a whole bunch of capital into the system and you are going to inflate the value of the assets already owned by the wealthiest individuals. So basically, you're going to, devalue the wages of the working class to inflate the assets of the people who already have money and wealth. And that was the only play. It really didn't matter who gets elected. The only thing you can do is do it
Mm-hmm.
somewhat smoothly and somewhat orderly, and maybe give people some hope. So, what was the hope? You get a big beautiful bill, but it's really just an inflationary bill. And you tell them that Doge could close $1 trillion, but you knew in your heart it was only 100 billion or 200 billion. You tell them that the U.S. used to run completely on tariffs, but you forget to tell them that the debt in the system from compared to when it ran completely
Mm-hmm.
on tariffs is like 10x that debt.
Yeah.
So in terms of per capita obligation, so it's you know you had a trade deficit of $1.2 trillion to the U.S. It's like you were never going to eliminate $7 trillion in tax by
Mm-hmm.
tariffs.
Right.
Um, but they say that, right? It's very Silicon Valley-esque, right? It's remember when Elon, came out and told everybody what we're going to get a Cybertruck, and he told them like 5 years ago, and they only started hitting the streets like a year ago, type of thing, right? It sounds good, the possibility of reducing taxes on tariffs and Doge, but it was never the reality. So
Mm-hmm.
even the ones who are interested, and I'm telling you, the majority of Americans could not tell you who Mark Carney is,
Mhm.
but even the ones who hear about tariffs and hear about, there's some good and bad and have a dialogue themselves, like they're probably for them because it's being sold away as a way to them to potentially get out of their debt problem and reduce their taxes. And it's I don't want to say it's a lie because it's not a lie. Like it helps, but it was never going to solve the problem, right? It's sold as it's wrapped in a way where it's like we could eliminate taxes on tariffs. Like, I mean, it's theoretically possible, but like they're so far away from that. Years, decades away from that ever being some sort of reality. With so many other changes that have to be made in
Mhm.
conjunction to get there. But it sounds good. So, if we imagine if it was presented the other way to Canadians right now, let's get in a trade war with the United States and we get a better deal and we can get rid of income taxes altogether. So imagine if the Canadians were being told that, right? They might be for this, right? So, I mean, that's the place that we're at right now. That's the way it's being sold to Americans. So most Americans just have no concern of this, whatsoever, because Canada is, 1/10 the size of the economy of the U.S.
Mhm.
It's kind of a nothing burger. They don't know who Mark Carney is, and if they do know, they probably have a overly optimistic opinion that initiatives like trade wars and tariffs actually could meaningfully reduce their taxes, and they could probably reduce their taxes, but marginally, like just marginally. So, I think he has a mandate for the people to keep going and get the best deal possible. And the elbows up crowd in Canada, I think they're just delusional that
Mhm.
any of this had any effect because they don't even know who Mark Carney is.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, Canadians are delusional and they have this, unjustified superiority complex. Like their claim to fame is, well, at least we're not American. Completely ridiculous. And but I think that the thing is the politicians here and the news cycle here in Canada, what they try to do is they need a boogeyman. They need somebody
Yes.
who is the cause of all of our ills, rather than looking inwardly at, hey, maybe we can make better decisions. Maybe we should do something differently here. It's always somebody else's fault, and they always say it's America's fault because they're the big bad boogeyman. And then now because of Trump, and he is who he is, right? He's a guy. He's bombastic. He's a megalomaniac, and he gets stuff done. But he's the boogeyman, and it just deflects all of the attention off of Mark Carney and all of the useless turds in Ottawa. And I think there needs to be a change in attitude, a change in mindset, and really, like we've said before, like the generation that has kind of ruined Canada and ruined the future for Canadians is the boomers. So they thought they had their guy who was going to take on Donald Trump with Mark Carney, and when it boils down to it is Americans don't even know who Mark Carney is. Well, think about it this way:
They're
California,
not yeah, not
California.
even
Go ahead. What?
they're not even for and against. They just don't know who he is. That's how meaningless that trade war is. They just don't know. 90% of them would not know who Mark Carney is.
Yeah, well, you think about California. California has about the same population as Canada, and I think their GDP is like huge, like it's massive. They're like they would be like one of the largest countries if they were a separate country. Compare that to Canada. Like Canada's filled with socialists, well, so is California. But people know everything that's going on in California because it's beautiful and wonderful. And up here in Canada, we're just the frozen north. They think we're just a bunch of communists and. like what do we have to offer them? I went on a tour of the United States this summer, and I went through several different states, visited lots of people. They're great people, and they always say, oh, they need our oil, they need our wood, they need our this and that. And it's like, you know what? They got a lot of all of that stuff down there. I was there. I saw it. They've got tons of all the stuff that we have too. Would it be nice to have ours? Yeah, because they buy us at a discount and they sell it to Germany, or they sell it to China, or they sell it to somewhere else at a profit. So I mean, that's a benefit to them. But as far as personal energy. I don't think they need us for any of that stuff.
No, no. I mean, it'd be marginally cheaper, and they have a lot of other willing trade partners if if we didn't supply it. So, from a Canadian's perspective, I mean, the problem always should have been our lack of other trading partners. Like, maybe the only thing is, I saw, maybe the only thing that was worth ruffling a feather over, it was, maybe, in earnest, that Mark Carney going and doing a deal with Mexico. It's like, okay, maybe that rubs Trump the wrong way, but of the 90, 100 things that you did to rub Trump the wrong way, maybe that one actually moves the ball forward because you're actually building trade relations with another country. That has and always should have been the focus. The stuff that we sell in Canada, whether it's natural gas or oil or high grade uranium or potash, it's wanted all over in the world. It's like this was never a difficult problem, but what's the value of having a boogeyman? It's like there's been a value of having a boogeyman since the beginning of time, because if you have an enemy, you're able to get control over a population. That's been true since since the dawn of civilizations, right?
It wins elections.
It's been true since the Roman Empire, right? If you have an enemy, even if it's just a perceived enemy, it basically causes fear in the population, and then they're more permissive to give control to the government. And so you need a boogeyman. You've always needed a boogeyman. So they will tell people that Tylenol is great for pregnant mothers because they just need a boogeyman, right? They'll go to no shame to no lengths to to create that boogeyman, because without the boogeyman, maybe Canadians would be a little more interested in that $100 billion deficit that we might be staring down coming November, which is the real issue.
Yeah. And you know what? I bet you anything, if you ask your American friends tomorrow, do you know anything about the ostrich situation that's going on in BC? They probably know more about the ostriches than they do Mark Carney.
The ostriches, yeah, the ostriches. Like, oh my God!
It just shows the government just has to have control over every little thing. It's kind of ridiculous, but anyway.
Yeah, the minute an average citizen wants to do something a little bit different, a little bit outside the box, it's like the full wrath of the federal government rains down on
Yes.
these 400 ostriches, right?
Meanwhile, we've got massive fentanyl labs in the woods in BC that they're not going after.
Real criminals who they know are ungovernable. They're not worried about, but they're worried about the average population doing something a little bit out of step, right? So the poor ostriches, right? They're gonna take the wrath of the federal government, but they're still there as of now. Is that right, Trevor? I haven't been following it all today.
They got a temporary stay. So I mean, they're not dead yet, but there's like 200 cops out there. There's the Canadian Food Health Agency out there. Wanting to kill these birds, all because, one of them or two of them had the bird flu like 250 days ago, but they've all recovered since. Kind of ridiculous, but anyway.
Yeah, and that was a reported incident. That was probably a farmer who did the right thing. Is that what happened, Trevor? Is that they actually followed the protocol?
Yeah, probably. And I don't know the whole story, but basically these animals are used for scientific research. They're not even going into the food supply. So why the Canadian Food Administration is out there is kind of odd. There's more to the story, I'm sure of it, but we'll never know the truth because they always want to hide things from us. But I guarantee you, people know more about those ostriches than they do Mark Carney.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's where we're at. And, it should be useful for a Canadian out there who's trying to understand what's happening and, build a thesis for, building wealth in their household. It's like the Americans have no concept of this at all. Like this is not, coming to a heated argument. It's basically, one side is completely fixated on it, and the other side is like, this is so far down their list. They're more attuned. They're more likely to know who Bryan Adams or Justin Bieber or Justin Trudeau is than Mark Carney. They have no idea who Mark Carney is.
Or Drake. Yeah. That guy, right?
Or Drake. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
So now bring it home for our viewers. Bring it home for us. Like, okay, so how do we teach them how to, build more wealth get prepared for the future. All tariffs and Orange Man bad aside.
I mean, this gives basically, this is designed to give the Canadian government permission. If they have a boogeyman, they can spend more money. And if they can spend more money, they can justify higher budgets. They can buy some more votes. It's really just that. It's really just that simple. It's just politicians being politicians, and they want the excuse to print fake money. Because when you print fake money, you can easily steer elections because people vote for what's in front of them. And so, is that going to change? It's like I don't think that actually doesn't change in votes. I've been telling people this for a while now. It's just such an unpopular opinion that you're not voting your way out of this. Is until the fake money printer and the power of the fake money printer is reduced through currencies that aren't wholly and completely manipulated by the government. They'll have this power over short-term thinking people. And so you have to understand that this behavior will not stop. This behavior will not stop until the power of the money printer, I won't say it's ripped away from them, but it's just diminished by the ascension of other currencies. And we hope that's Bitcoin. For the people, by the people, but we have to realize that it could be a BRICS gold-backed currency too. That could happen too, because the world is for the large part growing tiresome fake fiat currencies. You can see other countries that have been de-dollarizing for 10 years now, selling off U.S. bonds and buying gold, and it's been a very slow but very steady decline, very very steady decline. And these types of games by politicians, they continue to work, and there's no likelihood that it's going to change materially. Even if you elected the other party, I'm telling you, the solutions being thrown around out there, whether it's Carney or Polyev, or whether it was Harris or Trump, it's like the solutions being thrown around out there are not truly designed to fix the issues. They're not truly designed to fix the issues, because the issues that we have is the social structure that we have is completely unaffordable. Um, you know, Social Security in the U.S., CPP in Canada, it's a complete Ponzi. It's just on an unsustainable path, and people aren't ready to have real solutions on these problems. A massively aging population with extreme expectations on healthcare coverage. It's like all of these things are actually not that sustainable, and we're not ready to have real discussions yet. It's just not well understood by the populace. They'll still be saying, I'll elect my guy, and he'll grow this economy out of it. It's like you can't grow enough to overcome this unsustainable spending path and be like, I'm going to work a few more hours at work. And all of a sudden I can just, I can eat at fancy steakhouses every single night for the rest of my life. It's like, okay, the growth will help, but the spending has to be reined in, because it's just not sustainable. And it's pretty much true on every westernized country, especially in terms of the aging population and the longer lifespan and the lower birth rates. And you add it all up, and the math just doesn't make any sense anymore. But no one's really willing to have a real conversation, because all of the answers are basically, we're a lot broker than we think, and the changes that got to be made are all tough changes.
Yeah, yeah. You said a whole lot there. When it comes to the aging population, that makes a lot of sense as to why MAID has really taken off in Canada. People aren't being able to eat food, or they have to choose between food and rent or heat, and it's really sad. But I guess the silver lining in this cloud of doom is the government is going to print money. That's their main function, is printing money and making money out of thin air. And that means the asset classes that are going to appreciate are the ones that we recommend people, get involved in. And
Yes.
if you're buying those asset classes with the fake money, it at least gets you to a point where you have some hope for the future, because your wages are not going to keep up with the inflation. They can't keep up with the money printer. But as the money gets printed and inflates away, your spending power, it also increases the value of the assets. So maybe talk a little bit about that and how people can, shift their thinking and move towards that.
Yeah, once you understand that the government's going to have their boogeyman, they'll create their boogeyman as an excuse to print fake money. You have to understand that those dollars end up in the hands, even if it's direct stimulus. You can give direct stimulus to people who at lower income levels. What are they going to do? Turn around and spend it on? They're going to turn around and spend it at companies that already own all the assets, and who's that's going to benefit. It just has a time delay. Like, it just has a time delay. It's eventually going to end up in the hands of the people who already own the assets. Now the government can't give you anything because it doesn't actually produce anything. All it can do is give you fake paper money, and you can buy stuff from the people who increase the profits by the people who already own everything. And people are still on the myth of, like, you can tax the billionaires. It's like, it's kind of the same in every westernized country. I believe if you confiscated all the assets of the billionaires in the US, it's like it's not even a year. In Canada, I believe if you confiscated all the assets from the billionaires, they could last like a year and a half. Like, you could fund the government for a year and a half. That's if you just took everything, 100% of it.
Yeah.
Like, so we're just on a completely unsustainable path. And the only way for them to, sustain it and not shock people is to actually increase the money supply, whether that's through fiscal deficit spending or looser monetary policy. And ultimately, the benefactor of that is not going to be wage earners. It's going to be asset holders, as it's always has been, as it always has been since, certainly since 1971. And really, when you go back, it really always has been since 1913, right?
Yeah.
They hatched this plan in 1910 in Jekyll Island, and it's been working perfectly since, and working better and better every year. So that's where we are. And so once you know that's happening, once you know that the value is going to go up disproportionately in relation to your wages, you know the game plan. And so it's not fair, but once you know the direction, it's like you've already been told who the winning team is. Every dollar counts that much more. So every dollar counts that much more. So it's not something that only people with large asset holdings today can benefit from. It's like anybody who gets on the right path relatively quickly. Okay. I think we could be having different discussions in 10 years. I think the psychology is the learning factor. People have
Hmm.
caught up to the fact of how fiat currency works. I think it's becoming more and more mainstream. So in 10 years, you could have people electing governments who are making meaningful changes. Meaningful, because I'm telling you right now, like, both sides of the aisle, they're not even close to the target of things that would actually fix the unsustainable path. But in 10 years, we could potentially be having different conversations. But right now, you understand it's like the value of your wages is going to be devalued, and the benefactor is going to be the people holding the assets. So the race is on. Like, the urgency is here to
Hmm.
learn how to be one of the people who knows how to borrow effectively to invest, because that's the path out.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not going to the RBC or CIBC or any of the big banks here, and buying one of their crappy funds. Guys, get to the boot camp. We talk about all these things there, because there are assets that we do discuss there that are worth having, and they can really help move the needle for you, even if you're putting away like $100 a month, 100, $200 a month. If you can do that, just get started on the path and don't get left behind. There's still room on the life raft. We're trying to get you on it. So come to the boot camp, go to spurrell.ca and sign up today. Get your tickets. I think there's a few left, isn't there, Josh?
Yeah, I think we're about 80% sold out, but I'm sure it'll be, completely sold out by the day of the event, and probably before. So, we love to see people there, because, we got great strategies for people who have big money to deploy, and we have the cracks in the system for the little guys who, are still looking to get ahead. It's like, what cards do they have to play? People will be surprised. We have the quintessential solutions for the house poor Canadian, exactly what that person should do. They don't actually have an excuse. They just have a lack of knowledge, because there is a way to play that card. And now we have some, new developments on how you can utilize your TFSA that we didn't have even last boot camp.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting stuff that has come about, and I can't wait to learn more about it, and also share my testimony as well as to how things have been going. So it's going to be pretty exciting. And that's it for me, Josh. Any parting words?
That's it. I guess we'll see what Eric Trump has to say tomorrow.
All right, man. Sounds good. So we'll see you. Are you back in the office next week?
I'll be back in the office next week. We're doing our regular Friday slot. We went early this time because we weren't going to ruin our streak, 69 weeks in a row. So I think at this point they're going to have to kill one of us for us to stop here. So.
All right, man. Well, that sounds good. So that's it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And this will be redistributed again another time. But yeah, if you liked what you heard here, please tell somebody about it. Share the show. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.